Joining me now on In the Middle with Principal Hayward is Norton Public School Superintendent, Dr. Joseph Baeta. Dr. Baeta is a passionate, talented, motivating educational leader, as well as a caring, dedicated husband and father. Dr. Baeta has relentlessly pursued improvements in our school system since becoming the superintendent during the 2013-2014 school year. Dr. Baeta recently has been transforming Norton Public Schools through his technology initiatives, as well as his Educating the Whole Child initiative. Welcome, Dr. Baeta.
Thanks for having me. Pleasure to be here.
Excellent. So I mentioned in my opening the Whole Child initiative.
Sure.
What's a brief way to sum that up so people know what that is?
For me, I always say it's four areas. The academics, which I think is a given.
Yep.
The athletic for some students. The civic, beyond the classroom. And I think and if I say athletics, I also mean activities. And then the last one is the social well-being of the person. Development of grit, self-awareness, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, just those well-rounded attributes and things that we hope for all our children. And coming from a coaching background, just like a five-tool player. Right. Someone who's good people skills, got the content area, and so on. And how has that been going?
It's been going well. I mean, some of it is about really taking on some of our major issues. If we want to put it on the table, the issue of homework has become an issue. The issue of grading, school start times. Those are all things that slowly but surely we're working on because we don't have some of the key positions to just allow for that to be given to someone. We do a lot of it via committee. As you know, we have a new task force for the district.
Absolutely.
Underneath that, we're going to have school culture and climate committees. And then underneath that, we have a data and information committee, which actually is only administrators just because we just want to provide information, right? We always think about data. We're going to be providing more than just an MCAS score or an AP score. We want to provide attendance. We want to provide discipline reports. We want to provide potential behavior reports. We have student surveys that are taking place now, not only their health survey, but as you know, working with Panorama Education. So those right now are all anonymous. Do we eventually decide to work with families and make them more specific so that we have more specific information about a child? So it's all a process. It's basically a good 2 to 3 year goal to come full circle, if you will. It's never going to be done. Because like curriculum, it's never done. It's cyclical. There's always a change. Hopefully, between leadership and teachers in the classroom, we have some stability because that allows for us to continue to make sure that it is a key foundation of the system.
And I know our teachers are really interested in it because we talked about it on opening day. Right. And as soon as that email went out, you don't check your emails with me, you just send them out. Right. But as soon as it went out, I had teachers coming up to me in the hall. I hadn't seen it at that point, and they were asking me about the committees and how to get on. So I think the buy-in with staff is tremendous.
And the real idea is, listen, I could go out and hire thousands of dollars a day consultants, but I have experts here. I have psychologists. I have a clinical psychiatrist who works with us, or psychologist, excuse me, who works with us. As you know, Dr. Plummer, who's our key person. We have our psychologists, our adjustment counselors, our guidance counselors, our team chair people, classroom teachers who are known to be really good with working with kids who have struggles and it becomes more of an issue. We have specifically trained teachers in the area of restraint training, where a lot of questions happen, especially under the law now. We have a school resource officer who is hands-on trying to make our buildings safer but also better for kids. Instead of going out and saying, hey, here's another $5,000 consultant, I'm not saying we won't ask for expertise advice from the outside, because I think it's important. I decided to go to the committee route because I found that when we do committees the right way, we get good responses. And we get things.
Teachers are the best.
Teachers are the best.
Got an army of them.
One of the things that's so fundamental is we've gotten away from teachers, educators being recognized as specialists in their field. Just like a doctor is, a lawyer is, an engineer is. We want everybody else to give input. And I think it's time for us to bring that full circle and say, you know what? We want to listen. We'll take advice. We'll take support. But we're also trained to work and with children, and if we're not doing it the right way, then let's have a full circle and discuss it.
It's like hands-on 24/7. So if the teachers are the ones in front of the kids, they're executing the plan.
And it is 24/7. And I think our teachers here in Norton specifically do a really nice job of trying to learn the kids. The best compliment that I get as superintendent is when a parent says, I know that they didn't necessarily want to see me because my child's getting an A or a B and it's not a discipline problem, but when that teacher starts the conversation with, I really think your child is a wonderful person. Where do you go from that as a parent, right? I'm a parent, as you know. My child is in your building. to me, that's the best compliment you get as a parent.
Yeah.
If they're not doing as well academically as they should, then the team's already together to be able to really, give that child the supports they need. But I think the best compliment we get is when the parents who say, I really didn't need to go, but that teacher made me know that my child is a good person and works hard.
So as far as technology goes, now there's so many tech initiatives going on, and I'll have people in here and teachers talking about tech. What I want to know at your house, and you mentioned that you're a parent now and your daughter goes to the school here, so she's in a one-to-one environment. If there's a technology issue in your house and you can't call Karen Winsper, who handles it?
Most of the time it's me.
Oh, you're the tech guy in the house.
I if need be. I'm not great. I'm more of a technology. I'm like some of our, this is my 26th year. So I'm like the veteran staff on board. I'm that hesitant, somewhat novice to a lot of technology. Versus the Twitter accounts and that stuff that I handle for the district. Those are not difficult for me to do. They're just sometimes time consuming. But trying to model technology is not necessarily something I've been comfortable with. So lately I've been trying to dabble with some of the student technology that they're using and administrators. I know we had an ed camp here this past weekend that went really well. Unfortunately, because of parental duties, I didn't make it, but I was telling Karen this morning, it's an area where I really want to, by being here, it sends a very clear message about how important it is for the 27 plus teachers that were here and administrators that were here.
Just from Norton.
Just from Norton.
Plus all the other districts.
Right.
Now you mentioned you've been 26 years. Your current job excluded. What's the best position, and where was it that you've held in education that you kind of liked the best or felt?
I have to tell you that I love teaching. So, I kind of say to myself that I had a teaching career and an administrative career, right? 10 years in the classroom, and believe it or not now, on my 16th year in administration. And so I love the classroom because I got to work with all kinds of students, 504, special education, deaf and hard of hearing students, and AP kids. I had one class one year, I'll never forget it, I had 16 kids in AP class, and I thought they were teaching me more than I was teaching them because they were such high-end.
Was
psychology, AP Psych. So, for me, it was an opportunity to really learn from them as well, and how bright they were. Those are the type of kids I could assign 100 pages reading tonight, and tomorrow morning they'd have 20 questions for me. But the kids that I really was motivated by every day was when I did a humanities classroom with an English teacher and a special education teacher, or when I team taught in special education. And when I can turn to that child and say, you got a legitimate C+, you worked your tail off, you got to me, those are the most exciting years.
Okay. And where was that? What district?
I did some years in Sharon, Bristol, Plymouth Tech, Southeastern. Those were my major. I was out in Athol for 1 year. Remember, I was 1992.
That's something I didn't know. Okay.
1992, we're hiring a history teacher. The only thing that I had going for me was I'm an immigrant kid, bilingual. So that got me in the door. Otherwise, it was tough getting a job.
It's kind of a philosophical question. One of the things we're trying to do here, whole child, well-rounded, is creativity. Is creativity something that can be learned?
Well, you know what? That's a great question. I just had this question asked to me at a meeting about 2 months ago.
I thought it was original.
I think creativity is a combination of doing one of two things, and I think we can all do one of the two, maybe even both. One is the traditional think outside the box, right? So administratively, you hear that from me all the time. I think with children, we can say the same thing. With our students, we can say the same thing. I think with our staff. I think the hardest one is to actually think creatively in the box. And the reason why I say that is because we're so institutionally based as schools. We got bells and we got time, 60 minutes with that teacher, 90 minutes with this teacher, 45 minutes for literacy, whatever. So how do you think about those minutes with students differently? And I just this weekend was at the CASE conference down the Cape, and one of the things that I saw was how to use, and I wish I had done this one, or wish I had had it when I was a teacher. It was an English teacher, secondary level, and how to use Google as a way to to develop stations within your classroom. Now, we know that stations and groupings in elementary school happen a lot, but in 6 to 12, they happen less. They need to actually happen more because we see great successes with that methodology in the classroom.
So kind of like teachers modeling creativity inside the box, the confines
exactly.
of their
And
class.
if you're listen, the master teacher for me is defined as the teacher who does something creative and it doesn't work and they know to go back and do it yet another way.
Yep.
To me, that's a master
no
teacher.
No one-trick ponies.
There's no one-trick ponies.
Holbrook used to say,
there is no one-trick pony.
ponies.
The sayings I always have is the one-trick pony, and the other one is what hill are we willing to die on?
Yeah.
I mean, there's some critical issues that we have to fight, and there's some issues that you just say, this is not a good day for the battle. And I think creativity is one of those things where we don't give teachers enough leeway, if you will, to be creative.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't work, be the master teacher and reteach it in a different way so that the students do get it.
Yeah.
So instead of being worried about getting the curriculum done, let's make sure that the kids can get as close to being masterful in the basics. Because if you can do that, your creativity, I think, just completely grows.
You're obviously busy. We've talked about all sorts of initiatives, different things going on, and I know your schedule. What do you wish you had more time for?
I wish I had more time to walk every classroom every day like I did as a building principal. I mean, you knew my philosophy. I walked that building in the first half hour of the day, almost every single day.
Yeah.
I really believe that one of the things I'm pushing, as you know, with principals is that walk your building every day, let the kids know. So for me, the one thing I wish I could do is I wish I could be in every one of my buildings every week. It's impossible. I'm almost in at least 1 or 2 buildings every week. And if I go a week without visiting a building, then probably the next week, I'm probably going to hit them all, even if it's just for a 15-minute, as I say, kissing the babies and shaking hands, telling your staff, just going up to a staff member and saying how you're feeling. I know you've been under the weather, or welcome back because you've been out, or hey, I loved what you did in that classroom the other day. Those are the things I wish I had more time for.
Just like, and because you were a principal, I was your assistant principal for a time. Lunch duty was equally important, not just for me to see lunch duty, but for them to see me. And it's that type of thing.
I think, one of the things about things like a lunch duty, a release or AM duty, kids coming into school, I think it sends a very clear, message. And my philosophy about the key concepts of success are around one word. And that is visibility. Visibility with the staff, visibility with students, and visibility with your school community. Sometimes that means you have to go out into the community, but most times it's just your school community. And if people see that, most of the times the problems are minimal.
Yeah. You mentioned earlier that you were an immigrant kid.
Yeah.
So I know that about you because it's a part of you.
Right.
Why don't you tell us about where you were born, because you weren't born in the United States.
No, I wasn't. I was born in a small island of Flores in the Azores, Portugal, about 3,300 people. Came over in 1974 when I was 5 years old. Total immigrant family, literally one suitcase, no money. Parents had to be sponsored by their different families. My dad continued on west and was in California because his sponsor was his older brother who was in California. In those days, that's how the rules played. And we went to New Bedford, typical, Portuguese enclave, with my mom, 3rd floor, tenement housing almost, and my dad was out west for about 6 months, didn't see him. Western Union money delivery to the local corner Portuguese store where my mom would go grab the money to go get the groceries for the week. When I used to teach the immigrant experience to my students, I used to say, I can remember my first Christmas tree in the United States. It was a upside down broom, Brillo broom, and I hung knives and forks from it as the accessories. I wrapped gifts in my neighbors from downstairs New Bedford Standard Times newspaper that he used to leave for recycling. That's how poor we were. But that experience also has allowed for me to get to the other level with kids, which is all children can learn. I don't care if you're special ed, 504 ELL, deaf and hard of hearing, blind. If you're a child with a severe medical issue, I think all kids can learn. And I think if they see the love of learning in their teachers, I think the game is easy to play.
Now, you like travel.
I do.
that tied to being an immigrant? And
I think so. I think it's a
places,
love of people. I mean,
Yeah.
I've traveled a lot. My single days more so than now. But I brought my daughter back to where I was born, and my wife. This coming year, we have a family trip to Ireland, the kind of the Doherty side of the clan,
Yes.
if you will.
Yeah.
I've been as a college student all over the world. My most recent foreign trip was to Barcelona with a bunch of superintendents doing an exchange. We have an upcoming trip next, we're thinking October, of Norton Public Schools. We're trying to establish a relationship with a high school in China. So we're
Yes.
thinking of taking a few of us over there to kind of develop that relationship and do a full exchange.
Yeah.
As you know, it's a tuition program, so it's also an opportunity to bring in not only the diversity of students, but also the other option, which is it brings in tuition, which helps us offset the cost.
Yeah. And so pushing student travel now more so
Yeah,
than ever.
and of course we brought back that as well, but we brought it under the auspices of the school department and not independently done, and that was the big change. I don't believe in just trips for kids. I believe that the trips have to be really connected to students wanting to learn about the world. Remember, all of us who live in our communities, you're in yours and I'm in mine, we have a tendency to feel very protected, and our kids are brought up in those communities.
Yes.
How do we expand those horizons? Because if they go off to college, there's all kinds of students they're going to meet.
Yeah.
The real world brings everybody to the table, not just our
Certainly
little enclaves, if you will.
Yeah. Would you rather be fluent in all languages and never be able to travel, or be able to travel anywhere for a year but never be able to learn a word of a different language?
Oh, I would always want to learn the language more than the travel, because I think if I started a meeting here in Norton with parents and I spoke in Portuguese for 2 seconds, there's 2 people in the room that all of a sudden I'm the best thing in the world, because language connects you. It's just like if you know anything about a child's background, it makes a connection. I think language is exactly that, and that's why I'm, as you know, a big pusher of getting it down to the lower levels as a goal, because language allows for us to interconnect, and it changes the conversation. I mean, I've had conversations with people in Portuguese who look at me, and some people think I look more Irish than I look Portuguese, and I open my mouth and they just look at you like, my goodness, I didn't know that you actually spoke the language. Spanish is the same way. My Spanish is weaker now just simply because I don't speak it as often. I'm trying to pick up our sign language with to me, that's a really exciting thing, and I used to have students that were deaf and hard of hearing in my classroom back in the day, so I'm trying to get comfortable with making mistakes, because learning language is about making mistakes.
You might even say with sign language making mistakes.
You do.
You're not even gonna know.
It's interesting because saying good morning, for example, is the one that I always say, okay, did I say it the right way, or did I just say actually something inappropriate? And so but
and you use your hands a lot already.
I do. And the community, it's interesting because I think the deaf and hard of hearing community just appreciates my role in attempting. Because that makes them feel comfortable, and if that makes them feel comfortable, then you know what, I'll put myself out there and feel uncomfortable in order to make everybody else feel comfortable.
So more so than traveling to different locations or being into a place, it's the people and the connecting.
It is. And I always say that it's wonderful to do foreign exchange with our students, but let's take a busload of our kids to Tallapoosa, Georgia, right? And sit down with a district in Georgia, or an hour west of Atlanta, and listen to the Southern drawl. Look at their school schedule, attend a football game, eat at one of their restaurants. It is somewhat foreign in its own way. In the same way, if they come up here, they're going to be like, wow, you guys do this way? We don't do enough of that.
Even with Mr. Goldstein, my assistant principal, reinstituted the trip to New York City, and even just the scope and scale of everything, the number of people, the number of cars, the size of the building, I think kind of is a little awe-inspiring to our kids, and it makes them see it's a much larger place. It's a much bigger place. We had students from Wheaton College who had been over in Africa, and I asked them when they were visiting with our students, after having come back, what would students there or someone from that country be most surprised or interested in? And he said the size of buildings here in Norton, the size of buildings, because they didn't have any two-story anything. So that travel experience, I think, is really beneficial. So We're in the holiday season right around here and such. Any family traditions that you have during the holiday season?
Besides a lot of eating and drinking,
Well, of course.
in terms of,
I didn't want to make any jokes.
and I mean Coca-Cola, of course, and
Yes.
coffee.
Yeah.
I think our traditions for us are family. So I spend a lot of time with my family in just having a meal together, exchanging stories, having a few laughs, sharing a beverage together, exchanging stories, as I said, catching up. I usually, as you know, take some time off during the holiday season to catch up with my family. I spend time with my wife's family as well, which are a wonderful group. So I get to see their traditions, the way that they do things. And then, of course, we have a tendency to try to go away for a couple of days, usually 2 or 3 days during that time. It's a lot about two things. It's really about family. And I think the second part is that it's about getting yourself rejuvenated for that long haul that happens after the holidays. I also think that the other part is making sure that our students here and our staff here, and by staff I mean all staff, not just teachers, that we're supporting each other. We've had, as you know, some hard times around here with students and staff that have gone through family loss, and making sure that they feel supported. We can never bring back.
It can be a tough time of year.
We see it all the time. I mean, the SEL issues, the social emotional issues, for adults and children. Especially those of us that have dealt with loss. So to me, it's all about making sure that we're trying to really open up the avenues of supporting those folks as well.
When you're old, not just your family or your daughter, what do you think children will ask you to tell them stories about? So in the future, what do you think kids are going to say? Tell me a story about this.
I think, sometimes the hardest thing about being the superintendent is that really getting students to know who you are and what you do can be difficult. It's one of the reasons why I try to be at events and I try to go to places and see kids in the classroom and outside of the classroom. I'm hoping that they are able to remember those little things that my office can just make a phone call and do. I'm just telling a parent this weekend, I will call an admissions office. I'll call a president of a college and say, I don't know why you wouldn't think about this student. Some people say, you do that, but you really don't know the kids. And I say, no, I know the kids. I may know the kids by simply a face. I may know the student because of their activities, athletics, their participation in something. But I also may know them through reading letters of recommendation from their teachers that really speak, because teachers just don't put things to paper for the sake of doing it.
And you know and respect the teacher who wrote it.
Correct.
And it gives it gravity.
And it just gives it that. So I hope that they remember those, those quirky things such as, hey, let's have lunch. Let's do a lunch for the class of blah blah blah, because they really did something that they should be recognized for. And as you know, those things, as from back in my principal days, recognizing students, regardless of the adults are here or not. I mean, it's wonderful to have the parents here and have the parents come to the auditorium and all that, but just celebrate the school day with the kids. Do something that's different, that allows for them to, every celebration that we have in the school district is in the evening. I understand why we do that. But there should be certain celebrations that happen during the school day where there's modeling, presentation of a model student, for whatever that is. Improving their grades, going from failing classes. One of the things I love that you do is signing report cards.
I'm going to be doing a bunch.
I mean, the whole signing of report cards to me is a way for the principal to really make a statement that I know you as a student, and I know you know your students because you call them by name when you're in the hallway.
Not as well as I wish I did, but I know the faces. I'm excellent with faces. What accomplishment are you most proud of here in Norton?
I think I'm most proud of the transparency that we've brought to the district.
Okay.
And that sounds like a big thing. We publish more information about this district, from our budget to our accountability to what we're trying to do, than I think any of my predecessors have ever done. And I don't say that as a knock against them, because each of us, I always say, when I move on, retire, whatever, the next person hopefully is going to do it better than I ever did it, because that's the goal. But I'm really happy that we really are sharing information. We're still fighting that within the community with certain aspects of the community. But we have folks who pick up a line on a budget. They call me and say, I'd like a copy of the budget. Instead of saying to them, well, just go online and print it, I say, pick one up at 1 o'clock today will be
Yeah.
available to you. And I'm not sure that that's really helped to win over support, but
Yeah.
I think it's at least opened up the avenue that, you know, we are providing everything that we can within
Yeah.
the legal grounds that we can. You know, personnel records, of course, stuff like that we don't.
Yeah. Of the strengths that you have, which have helped you succeed, and of the faults, which have hindered you?
To be quite honest, I think that my biggest positive is also my biggest negative. I kind of say what's on my mind.
You do.
And so, from the perspective of teaching and learning, you know, I sometimes have to remind myself, or I can push a topic, but then I have to remind myself that at the end of the day, I'm still seen as the boss. So
Yeah.
I have to sometimes be careful about not shutting people off from allowing their opinion to be in the room.
A closing debate,
right,
just to keep it.
So one of my
going.
things is that I've been working on for about 3 or 4 years now is to try to interrupt less and listen more.
Yeah.
And once the comment is done, now give my perspective on it, or
Yeah.
not sell my view to the room until I know that the room is ready for a different idea.
Yeah.
Or to simply send a message that doing it your way, you have my full support, resources, time,
Yeah.
whatever you need. But if it doesn't work, I'm just asking you to do it my way afterwards.
Yeah.
And that's tough to do because that requires a lot of trust between adults. And
Yeah.
I think good school systems like us are doing great things because I do think there's a lot of trust between leadership
Yeah.
on both sides of the aisle. And within the buildings, I think it's only getting better.
Yeah. No one has better staff than I do. Awesome.
You have a fantastic staff.
Yeah, I
Yes,
won't
you
make
do.
you say that, but that's what I feel. What sport could you play the longest in a televised game without anyone discovering that you aren't a professional athlete?
Ooh. Hot dog eating contest? I'm trying to think. I would probably,
They might never discover, Joe.
Yeah, exactly.
They might never discover that.
Correct. I wouldn't do it though. I would probably say my first love has always been soccer, and I have
Yeah.
some skill sets in it, but
Yeah.
so I could probably play it at a level
Yeah.
that would allow for me to get beat up pretty good on the
Yeah.
field.
So you maybe 5-10 minutes in. they
Yeah,
might
I'd say, yeah, why is he out there?
Yeah,
What's the big
okay.
guy doing on the soccer field?
Okay. And lastly, describe your perfect day at work and your perfect day off.
So my perfect day at work is a day where I can come in, I can check messages, and go about my day, and
Yeah.
there is no life-threatening situation with
Yeah.
anybody in the district.
No crisis.
No crisis.
Yeah.
No crisis, which is most of our days,
Yeah,
is
for
a
sure.
good day. I mean,
Yeah.
there's always going to be hiccups and headaches and phone calls about stuff. But the real perfect day, like the day that is, can I just go to the 5 schools and I don't even go to the office, which I do
Yeah.
do. I
Yeah.
mean, there are days that I do that, or at least start my day at a school
Yeah.
with just saying hello, which sometimes frightens people that I'm in the building, or parents
Yeah.
will see me. Personally, my best day is really any day that I can spend with my daughter. Any day that
Yeah.
as a dad,
Yeah.
we spend so much time away from them that those
Yeah.
days that we do have them,
Yeah.
you just got to figure out ways to do it,
Yeah.
and get together. Whatever that is. It may just be that you're going out to lunch together because mine's older
Yeah.
now, or we're going to the library, or
Yeah.
just whatever it is.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to thank you for being on the show, and I
pleasure.
hope the rest of your day is perfect like that,
Excellent.
all right?
Happy holidays.
All right, thanks.
Appreciate
Dr.
it.
Baeta, Superintendent of Norton Public Schools.